the latest instalment on the persecution of pensioner Tricia Breckman. She says her neighbours are trying to force her out of her West Wales small holding. But it's not the neighbours the authorities have been gunning for. It's her. She's been arrested 3 times for harassing the neighbours. And the evidence against her? The videos the police told her to take to prove her allegations. We'll show you those videos and you can make up your own mind. A grim April morning in rural Wales. A pensioner's cottage is being raided by the police. They're looking for camcorder and CCTV tapes, which they say may be evidence of harassment. Wales This Week were there to investigate a very nasty conflict. We were shown in, but asked to leave by police.
HTV. HTV. Can I have a chat outside, please? Before you take a picture, if you wouldn't mind, please. Thank you very much. I'm Sergeant Lewis, and I wouldn't mind having a chat with you outside.
They took away packets of evidence, DVDs, which they would view back at Carmarthen Police Station. At the station, the pensioner's frail wife was under lock and key. The police returned with their seizures at midday, but they didn't release the woman until nearly midnight. Then she returned home in the dark with her partner to the cottage where they live under siege by their neighbours, the Thomases.
You created this war with that wall.
In this war, the retired couple's only defence has been to film their neighbours' persecution of them. They were told to do this by the council and the police. But then the police said that the filming constituted harassment of the Thomases and went looking for the tapes. Tricia Breckman was arrested earlier in March and bailed.
The bail conditions were that I stopped using my video camera and that I wasn't even to make any sound recordings either.
Did you have any intention of obeying that bail condition?
Absolutely not.
She was true to her word, but so were the police. And despite needing a hip operation and suffering emotional trauma, the police kept the 62-year-old in custody for over 12 hours.
It's got to be one of the most stressful and emotional events of my life, I think. To be locked in a cell for something that you know you haven't done.
Her partner claims police broke regulations when they held her for so long.
To hold somebody in a police station for a long period of time and to intimidate them in the manner that she was intimidated should only be something that's used in the instance of, 1, a person who they feel might abscond, 2, a person who has a serious criminal record, or 3, somebody who they know to be dangerous.
This was all part of a not-so-neighbourly dispute that's been raging for 5 years. It's the Thomases, who live here, versus their neighbours Eddie Roberts and Tricia Breckman, who live down there. The Thomases run a haulage business called KBHS from their Blind Pant farm, without planning permission.
The noise began straight away, immediately. We had then quarrying, lorries, plant machinery, digging, dumping, power hosing of lorries, maintenance on lorries, and it didn't stop.
When she complained to the council, the Thomases started a campaign of harassment against the couple. They took advantage of the lane which goes to the couple's house. They own the land and installed 2 extra gates, narrowed the lane with motorway crash barriers and hung a Welsh flag above it.
It was hung there, I think, to intimidate, firstly, and certainly it's racist because he had made it perfectly clear to us on previous occasions that we were a pair of English bastards and should get back over the Severn Bridge.
That driveway only comes down to us. We only have one way in and one way out. We don't have any other choice. If they always happen to be in there, why are they in there when we are going out and coming home?
The Thomases claim that the gates are there for the protection of their animals when they transfer them across the lane. But as this footage clearly shows, that is not correct. As you can see, the gates the Thomases installed are not being used. There are 2 side gates which can be closed across the lane instead, creating a safe path for animals.
There's no necessity at all for narrowing the drive or putting in any gates whatsoever. There have been no gates there for 26 years or more.
The couple hoped that the council would help them, But no. In fact, the couple are not the first residents of the cottage that Carmarthenshire Council has failed. A man called John Lawday lived there for 25 years. When the Thomases moved in, he went to the council for help. They asked for evidence.
He kept logs, and he took photographs, and he wrote letters.
Another local, a retired civil engineer, also made logs, and the local community council expressed concern. Eddie Roberts and Tricia Breckman also made logs and filmed the lorries, but the council didn't even view the films, yet admitted in an internal email that someone was going to get hurt. The planning chief said it's difficult because the lorries worked outside normal hours.
I thought that the council were there to help you. I thought the council were there for the people, which is what they're supposed to be there for. So if you have any problems, you should be able to go to the council and have those problems looked at properly. That hasn't happened.
So they gave up on the council. Then they submitted their evidence to the police. The police passed the evidence to the Crown Prosecution Service, but they decided that the Thomases were not harassing the couple. In fact, they said the retired couple were harassing the Thomases. Tricia Breckman filmed and recorded the police when they warned her under the Harassment Act.
What I've got is, for each of you, is a schedule of incidents that CPS have looked at, which are considered to be harassment.
This is a copy of what? Harassment against them?
That we're being accused of, is it?
Harassment that both of you will be accused of.
We're being accused of, oh
Yes.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me if I find that extraordinary.
Tricia Breckman told the police she was not going to obey them.
I'm telling you now that I'm going to go out there in a minute and I'm going to video.
Well, that's going to be your choice, but
Okay, and
you've been warned of what the consequences are. And that's your decision, Mrs. Breckman.
Let me finish what I'm saying.
I'll
Now,
go before a jury.
would you like to
That's your
explain
No,
to me?
I want justice.
Tricia Breckman and Eddie Roberts both say that the CPS ruling was horribly unfair. They've given us the film evidence. Now you can decide whether you think the CPS got it right or wrong. The first bit of footage we'll show you took place on October the 10th, 2005. It's a massive row between the two couples. The CPS decided that the footage was evidence of Tricia Breckman and Eddie Roberts harassing the Thomases by videoing and slamming the gate and issuing threats.
If I was as backward as you, I would be worried.
Do you know,
If I was as backward as you and was as low as you two, no wonder you crawled all over England.
That blatant racist abuse was ignored by both Dyfed-Powys Police and Carmarthen CPS.
what's it got to do with Rolf?
Rolf, how's the taxi job doing?
Janet.
Do you know if I was 20 years younger, I'd take your head off your
Janet.
shoulders?
I'd love you to try.
Yeah, I'm not old enough. I'm
Who
too
was
old.
the
Why
one
not?
that
Why
Tricia
don't you
said
try?
to them?
I'd love you to try.
Who
And her
was the
son,
one?
I'd love you. Go and find somebody to try. And he
get lots of
is
friends.
Hitler. See Hitler?
He's not, he's Rolf
Rolf
Harris.
Harris, I've got nothing on him. Hitler.
Rolf Harris.
No, he's not a good looking as Rolf. He's not a good looking as Rolf. Go and shave yourself, it's scruffy.
Again, why are they in that section of drive? There is no reason for them to be there, none whatsoever.
The next incident happened 2 days after Christmas. The Thomases locked them in and waived a page of their deeds, which they say gave them the right. Then the conflict turned violent. Eddie Roberts was worried because Andrew Thomas has been prosecuted for violent behaviour. But the CPS ruled that the following is evidence of harassment of the Thomases by videoing and blocking the gate.
No, Andrew, don't give him the key. We'll keep it.
It
Andrew.
entitles you to open the gates and put in a lock on both of them. You're obstructing my right of way, Mr. Roberts. Anything to say about that? Have you got anything to say about that?
No, I think we'll keep the key. Mr. Roberts.
Mr. Wright, seek some legal advice. Oh. How was that now?
That's a nice bit of violence. Thank you for
No
hitting me in the
violence.
face.
No violence, Mr.
You've
Roberts.
just hit me in the face. That's an
I did not hit you in
assault.
the face, Mr. Roberts.
Yes,
I
you
give you a
did.
copy of my deeds. Don't tell lies.
You pushed
You're
it
a
into
liar.
my face.
You're a liar. You witnessed that, Royston? He's a liar. He said it that I hit him. You're a liar.
The CPS told us that the alleged assault against Eddie Roberts was not pursued because of lack of evidence.
How was that now?
How a CPS lawyer could view that piece of footage and overlook that blatant assault taken from two camera angles and yet accuse Eddie of blocking a gate is too ridiculous for words.
And finally, Andrew Thomas locked Tricia Breckman in again, but the CPS said that Tricia Breckman was the one doing the harassing by slamming a gate, videoing and being abusive.
I've closed the gate 3 times within 5 minutes. She'd come up and opened it. She's not going out, so I've now put a lock and chain on it. You're right, at that track is to pass and repass. I've closed the gate.
How do I get out of here if I don't open the gate?
When do you want to go out? I'll open it.
Don't be so
I offered you
ridiculous.
park.
The Crown Prosecution Service have looked at the evidence again and dropped all the charges. They, the police and the council all say they acted properly. But is there more to this story than a falling out between neighbours? Find out after the break. Welcome back. Tricia Breckman came to Wales for a peaceful life, but her world's been turned into the Wild West. The row with her wealthy neighbours has blighted her small holding. This is the cottage where Eddie Roberts and Tricia Breckman live. And this is the kind of confrontation that they have to put up with. They're at war with their neighbours, Andrew and Karen Thomas. A 2-year conflict has taken a terrible emotional toll on them, and it's affected them financially as well.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Ewan Jones from BJP.
Hello, Ewan.
We asked 2 local estate agents to assess the damage it's had on the value of their cottage.
I've seen boundary disputes, but not to this extent. I mean, this isn't really a boundary dispute. This appears to me to be somewhat... It's intimidation, isn't it? It appears.
Our second estate agent was surprised by some of the things he saw and by what he heard of the stance of Carmarthenshire Council.
Oh, yes, I see.
The
Yes.
council have said that they were allowed to put this board up. They call it their privacy board.
It's quite unusual to see such a board like that erected. Normally, planning permission only allows you something like 2 metres high. But I think in this case, the council have ruled that there is no breach of any planning regulation, which indeed is quite unusual.
The Thomases erected the board after Tricia Breckman installed a CCTV camera. She put up the camera after finding faeces on her windowsill. The muck appeared to have come from the pigs which the Thomases had installed.
They put pigs under our bedroom window and called them by our names, Eddie and Tricia. And Karen Bowen would come down to them any time from 6 o'clock in the morning and talk to them, Eddie and Tricia, and tell Tricia that her manners were atrocious and that she needed beauty sleep.
You're not to poke your nose into where it's not wanted, Trish.
I can drive away here tonight and go home. Unfortunately, these people are living here day and night with these problems associated with this particular property. Yeah, I feel very sorry for them. I think it's an unenviable position they're living in at the moment.
The couple's road home has been blighted by the Thomases. Our estate agents took a look. Access is Eddie Roberts and Tricia Breckman's main problem. The fire brigade have inspected the lane. They wrote to the Thomases and to the council, telling them that it would be difficult to get a fire engine down in an emergency. But absolutely nothing happened. It's going to hit the couple deep in the pocket.
The property, with no problems about access, should achieve something like £325,000. Unfortunately, because of the dispute hanging over it, I suspect that it would only sell for something like £100,000 less. That's the sort of discount that a cash buyer would be looking for to buy it with all the problems.
There's going to be at least a 30% diminution in its market value, and probably higher. The biggest problem you've got here is that the majority of people would not be interested in buying it. And I suspect probably the most likely purchaser of this property would be the next door neighbour, who probably is the cause of the diminution in value in the first place.
We asked the estate agents what they thought of the role of Carmarthenshire Council in the dispute.
Well, I think it's important that local authorities rigorously enforce any planning regulations, and they obviously need to possibly review exactly what has taken place on this occasion.
We asked the council to comment on the case. The councillor, then in charge of planning, insisted that the Thomases didn't need planning permission because he thought they only had 2 lorries.
parking of lorries there, 2 lorries, doesn't constitute running a business. Should they park 3 there, obviously they would have to go apply for planning permission. But having said that, obviously they have an operator's licence issued by the traffic commissioners to keep 2 lorries at the farm.
But the Thomases have a licence to keep 3 lorries and run the business from the farm, but they still don't have planning permission. The estate agent was not surprised by the stance of the council.
I think there have been many instances over the years where the local authorities that I've seen in West Wales have not exactly followed the rule book in respect of planning, but unfortunately that has always been the case in the decades that I've practiced in this area.
Failed by the local authorities, Eddie Roberts and Tricia Breckman's only hope is the intervention of the National Assembly. After the last programme, Planning Minister Carwyn Jones wrote to the Planning Department to ask them what was going on.
I'm aware of the letter that's come in from the Minister to the Chairman of the Council. We have, in fact, already provided some information on that particular case to the Welsh Assembly, so I'm not quite clear what further information that we can provide.
We'll keep you posted.